to men sometimes go awry. So we just did this live just a few minutes ago, and for whatever reason, it glitched out. But nonetheless, we're live now, so welcome to Thursday Morning Coffee Break with DCE Law. Thank you for joining us this morning. This morning we are finishing up a series on divorce in Florida. Now, I'm a Florida attorney. My name is Deborah Sermonaro Eldridge, and I'm the owner and attorney for DCE Law. And I've been practicing in the state of Florida. I've had my license for 29 years. Wow, how time flies. But nonetheless, we're talking today about the final steps in the divorce process. Now, and this is post-final judgment. So now you've got your final judgment, and now what do we do next? What's the next thing that you need to do? Now, one of the things that I want to remind everybody of is that all of the information that I provide to you is based on Florida law because I'm a Florida attorney, unless we're talking federal matters. But nonetheless, you have this final judgment, and now you want to move forward in a very positive direction because you're now moving forward with the rest of your life, and that is so incredibly exciting. But with that in mind, what do we do next? We have to determine what aspects of the final judgment need to be addressed after the fact. Now, understand that your attorney, you have hired your attorney for the dissolution of marriage, for the divorce. So your attorney's responsibility ends once that final judgment is entered. If you want to retain your attorney after the fact for the post-judgment matters, you can do so, but their responsibility and their role with you has ended at the final judgment being entered. That means that if in fact real estate is being sold or refinanced, or you have to address a retirement account or anything else, you need to think about who is going to help me with that moving forward. Let's start by talking about retirement accounts, because retirement accounts, excuse me, are considered assets. So when the retirement account is divided, and let's say you have a 50-50 interest in the retirement accounts, and you were not the employee, your husband or your spouse was the employee. Now what that means is 50% of, you're entitled to 50% of that retirement account. So what we have to do is we have to prepare, or you have to have prepared, a qualified domestic relations order. We call those quadros. And there are certain people who actually focus in that area, and they're very good at it. It can be an accountant who handles primarily qualified domestic relations orders. It can be an attorney's or law office, or maybe your attorney's office has a particular person on their staff that handles the qualified domestic relations orders. We're going to refer to those as quadros. Then you go ahead and you have that created, and that gets sent to the judge with the final judgment, and the judge signs off on the quadro, and then that's sent to the employer or the company managing the quadro, the retirement account. At that point in time, depending on how the company handles it or how that management company handles it, you are either going to have those assets, that amount set aside in your name, so you now own that amount, or the company waits until the time frame when the retirement benefits are actually being paid. It depends on how that company handles it. It's always nice when they handle it up front, because then they don't have to worry about commingling of assets after the fact or anything else. But you can't control how the company chooses to handle that. That's up to their board. Then we also have to look at, was real estate involved? Do we need to sell property? Is property being refinanced? Do we have debts that are being paid from that? All of these things. So it's good to make a checklist to make sure that you're going through your checklist. You're checking everything off as you go through it, because that way you know you're not missing a step, and then 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road you're like, oh, wait a minute, I was supposed to do that and I didn't get it done, and now I've been charged for all of this, and he or she should have paid for it. Well, it doesn't work that way if we don't get the stuff done in advance after the final judgment. And give yourself, I would say, 60 days. and put yourself on a time clock to get these things done. Now, in the final judgment, it may state that these things have to be done in a certain time frame, particularly when it comes to the sale or refinance of the house. Generally, we do not give anybody more than 90 days to get those things accomplished. And 90 days is plenty of time because, quite honestly, those things should have been worked on prior to the divorce, actually, the final judgment being entered. So you give yourself a time frame. That way, if in fact it's not taken care of, we can go back before the judge and we can say, Your Honor, so-and-so isn't doing what they said they were going to do. Now we have to sell the house or we have to do this with it. So we have these checklists and these things that have to be checked off as you go. And you want to make sure that you do make a list. And even if you sit with your attorney prior to the dissolution of marriage or the final judgment being entered, and you go through and you and your attorney make a list of all the things that you need to do after the dissolution of marriage is entered, that's a really good thing because now you know. Because there's so many emotions and so many things going on in a divorce, especially if it's been a toxic situation. You have a lot that you're trying to rebuild yourself, your life, your everything, and then you need the checklist to keep you on task. So that will conclude our series for April on dissolution of marriage. And what that means is basically Florida divorce. I thank you for joining us. I hope that you have been able to garner some information that's been helpful for you. If you're not a resident of Florida, I thank you for joining us anyway, even though the information doesn't particularly apply to you. I appreciate you joining us. Next month, we will be talking about more general information. We're going to be going over intellectual property with trademarks and copyrights and trade dress and patents. That's intellectual property because that's very important, especially if you're planning on starting your business. You want to make sure that you started on the right foot and that you're checking off the needed boxes as you go through it. And then we're also going to be talking about some real estate matters, especially in this market. How are we preparing to buy a home, to sell a home? What are we going to be doing? How are we reinvesting that money? All of those types of things. The little tricks that we need to know as we navigate the real estate market in the day of 2022. Thank you again. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thursday, and I'll see you next Thursday, live and online.